Good morning, students. Today we are going to start with the grammar content, which is already known to you, figures of speeches. This part actually you had done in your school, as well as in the last year in the 11th standard also same content it was there. We have seen this in 11th standard too. One more time we are going to revise this in 12th standard. Definitely there is at least one question in the board examination on this content. Okay, so let's begin. So first thing is that what is figure of speech? Actually, a figure of speech is a figurative language in the form of a single word or phrase. A figure of speech is a word or phrase using figurative language that has other meaning than its normal definition. In other words, students, we can say that figures of speeches rely on implied or suggested meaning rather than a dictionary definition. We express and develop them through hundreds of different rhetorical techniques from specific types like metaphors, similes, onomatopoeia is there, hyperbole, exclamations, to more general forms like sarcasm and slangs. Figure of speech make up a huge portion of the English language, making it more creative, more expressive, and just more interesting. Many have been around for hundreds of years, some even thousands, and more are added to our language essentially every day. This article will focus on a few key forms of figures of speech, but you have to remember that the types are nearly endless. So from these figures of speeches, some figures of speeches today we are going to learn, which we have for our syllabus, 12th standard syllabus. Okay, so let's begin. So a figure of speech is essentially a word or phrase used in a non-literal sense for rhetorical or vivid effect. Figures of speeches are always used to decorate language. They are plainly defined as saying one thing in terms of something else. So what does that mean? Well, it's simple actually. So instead of using simple sentences in figures of speeches, decorative languages are used. Especially in poem section, we are going to find lots of figures of speeches, and we have to identify those figures of speeches and we have to give the explanation. Whenever you say something but you don't mean it literally, you are using a figure of speech. Let's say you are about to head out to the store and your mother says, "You better take a jacket. It's raining cats and dogs out there." So here actually, does your mom literally means animals are falling from the sky? No, actually she doesn't want to say that. She wants to say that there is a heavy rain, and that's why you should take your jacket with you. So like this, figurative words are used, decorative words are used to decorate your language, which is known as figures of speech. First figure of speech is simile. A simile is a very common figure of speech that uses the words like and as to compare two things that are not related by definitions. So how you are going to identify the given Figure of speech is simile. Always the like or as or so words are used in simile. Here we can take example. He is as tall as a mountain. Doesn't mean he was actually 1,000 feet tall. It just means he was really tall. So, in simile, you are going to find comparison, and that comparison it is between two things by using words like, as, or so. My dog is as smelly as dirty socks. Here are some examples of simile. This pizza is as cold as ice. So here the comparison it is done between two things, like this pizza is as cold as ice. As cold as ice. So there is a comparison, and that is the direct comparison between the pizza and the as an ice. Okay, by using the words as. So that's why this is the example of simile. Next is metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way it that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. And here students, you are going to get an indirect comparison between two words. A metaphor states that one thing is another thing. It equates those two things not because they are actually are the same, but for the sake of comparison or the symbolism. Metaphors are used in poetry, literature, anytime someone wants to add some color to their language. Like here you can see the example. The camel is a sheep of desert. So there is a indirect comparison between the camel and the desert. And metaphor is different than simile because in both you are going to get comparison, but in metaphor you get indirect comparison because like, as, so words are not used. In simile we use all these words. So here is an indirect comparison between the camel and the desert. Every simile can be compressed into a metaphor, and every metaphor can be expanded into a simile, because we can use like word when we use like, as, or so word, so that time we can make metaphor as a simile. Akash fought like a lion, that is simile because here like word is used. If we want to tell this sentence into metaphor, so that time Akash was a lion in the fight. So here the like word is not used, that's why it becomes metaphor. Okay. Next, personification. Students, in personification, inanimate objects and abstract things are spoken of as having life and intelligence. So in personification, a thing or an idea or an animal is given human attributes. The non-human objects are portrayed in such a way that we feel they have the ability to act like human beings. For example, when we say the sky weeps, we are giving the sky the ability to cry, which is a human quality. Thus, we can say that the sky has been personified in the given sentence. The trees screams in the raging wind. Screams. Now here the trees, they cannot scream, but human quality it is given to the trees, and that's why this is the personification. Flowers are dancing. Flowers cannot dance because flowers are non-living things, but the human quality it is given to the flower, that's why it becomes personification. See here the explanation is given that can trees actually scream? No, that is a human characteristic. So the use of personification here gives a better description of the sound trees make in a strong winds. Next is apostrophe. An apostrophe is a direct address to the dead, to the absent, or to a personified object or idea. In apostrophe, what we do, we just think or we believe that the dead person or the absent person or a personified object is there front of us, and we directly stop with that thing or with that person. This figure is a special form of personification. Most of the time in literature, apostrophe is a figure of speech which represented by an exclamations such as O. Here also you can see O stars. So a writer or a speaker using apostrophe speaks directly to someone who is not present or who is dead, or speaks to an inanimate object. Apostrophe is easy to identify because you are going to get apostrophe mark in this figure of speech. The punctuation mark shows possession or marks the omission of one or more letters. Apostrophe in literature is an arrangement of words addressing a non-existent person or an abstract idea in such a way as if it were present and capable of understanding feelings. Example, O stars and clouds, see. Students, here you can see apostrophe mark as well as O. So here the speaker is talking with stars and clouds, inanimate object. So that's why this is the apostrophe figure of speech. Oh lovely orange. See, we cannot talk with orange because it is an inanimate object. But here the speaker is talking with orange. That's why this is an apostrophe figure of speech. Next is hyperbole. Hyperbole is the use of exaggeration as a rhetorical device or figure of speech. It may be used to evoke strong feelings or to create a strong impression, but is not meant to be taken literally. Hyperboles are exaggerations to create emphasis or effect. Example, I was so hungry, I could eat a horse. Actually, the person cannot eat a horse, that is exaggeration. But here we can see that the speaker has used more effective language to express his feeling. She is older than the hills. How the person could be older than the hill? So that is the exaggeration. I have told you a million times to help with the housework. Million times? That is impossible thing. Okay, so here you are going to get impossible things, but these expressions are used to show, to give effects to the sentence. Okay, I will literally die if you don't stop using hyperboles incorrectly. Again, exaggeration. The person cannot die if he is not going to use hyperbole. Next is antithesis. Antithesis. Students, here only you are getting the meaning of the figure of speech. Anti means opposite, thesis means ideas. So here you are going to get two opposite ideas. Antithesis is a figure of speech that shows two contrasting or opposing ideas, usually within parallel grammatical structure. Antithesis work best when it is used in conjunction with the parallelism, since the repetition of structure makes the contrast of the content of the phrases as clear as possible. Love and hate, two opposite ideas. Good and evil, two opposite ideas. Peace and war, two opposite ideas. Here you can take example, speech is silver but silence is golden. In this sentence you are going to get two opposite ideas. Speech is silver, silence is gold. So speech and silence both are two opposite ideas which are given in one sentence. So that is antithesis. Next is oxymoron. Oxymoron is a special form of antithesis where two contradictory qualities are predicted at once of the same thing. Oxymoron is the type or is the form of antithesis. In an oxymoron, students, you are going to get two contradictory or opposing terms in a single phrase, while in antithesis you are going to get two contrasting ideas in a sentence, not in a frame. So mostly if you will see here, so here always you get two different parts of the sentences in antithesis. See, speech is silver but silence is golden. So here speech is silver, this can be one part, but silence is golden, this can be other part of the same sentence. But in oxymoron you are not going to get this. Single sentence, single phrase you are going to get, where you get two contradictory ideas. I am busy doing nothing. Busy also nothing. Busy and nothing. Two opposite ideas are given in a single phrase. That is the difference between the oxymoron and the antithesis. Known secret. Known secret. Secret is also there as well as it is known. How it can be possible? Okay. So confirm rumor. Rumor is there and that is also confirmed. So that can be oxymoron. So what is the difference between these two? In antithesis you are going to get two parts of the sentences, two parts in a single sentence, where in oxymoron you get only one phrase where the two contradictory ideas are given. Irony. Student, this is an interesting figure of speech, because in irony this is a figure of speech in which there is a contradiction of expectation between what is said and what is really meant. Means what the speaker he said and what he wants to mean, there is a difference between these two. It is a characterized by a contrast between a reality and appearance. It is a contrast between what is said and what is mean. It occurs when the audience or the reader knows more than the character about events. In other words, we can say that what the character thinks is true with what the audience knows. This refers to the contrast between the actual result of a situation and what was intended or expected to happen. Example is given: for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men. The quote is reporting that Brutus is an honorable man. However, the Mark Antony, actually this is the example by Mark Antony in the play Julius Caesar, which is by William Shakespeare. This is a statement made several times in a speech by Mark Antony in the play. Here the speech in Antony's funeral over Caesar, whom the Brutus has helped kill. So here the Brutus is an honorable man. This is an ironic thing, as Antony is attempting to portray Brutus as ungrateful person. He succeeds in turning the Roman people against Brutus and the other assassins. Student, simple example, I'll explain that a fire station burns down. A fire station burns down. How it is possible? Because this is unexpected, because one would assume the fire chief would keep his own building safe. Okay, so if the fire station burn, so that is unexpected. So that's why that is irony. A marriage counselor files for divorce. This is ironic because the expectation is that a professional who coaches couple through rough patches of life would herself have a strong marriage, isn't it? So that's why a marriage counselor files for divorce. Marriage counselor also and divorce also. So that is an irony. The police station gets robbed. Again, the expectation is that professional crimes fighters would be able to help themselves, in this case by securing their own station. So how it is possible that the police station gets robbed? Okay, next is pun. A pun is a joke based on the interplay or the of homophones, words with the same pronunciation but different meaning. It can also play with the words that sound similar but not exactly the same. The joke's humor comes from the confusion of the two meanings. So a pun is the use of word in such a way that it is capable of more than one application. The object thing is to produce a ludicrous effect. Ludicrous means so foolish, unreasonable. The tallest building in town is the library. It has thousands of stories. A pun on the difference between stories in books and stories. Here they wants to say flowers in a building. Is life worth living? It depends upon the lever. Lever means, here the lever can be a person who lives life or lever from our body. So it depends upon lever. Is life worth living? It depends upon the liver. In this sentence, the word liver has been used in double meaning, right? The physical organ liver and the person who lives. That's what this is, the pun. Next is metonymy. In metonymy, an object is designated to be the name of something else which is generally associated with it. Metonymy is a figure of speech that replaces the name of a thing with the name of something else with which it is closely associated. We can come across example of metonymy both from literature as well as and in everyday life. Metonymy is often confused with another figure of speech which is called synecdoche, but here we are going to discuss about only the metonymy. Okay. See, the crown for the king. King related with crown, crown is related with the king. If we talk about the examples of metonymy in everyday life, so England decides to keep check on immigration. Here actually the speaker, he doesn't want to say England literally, he wants to suggest England here means the government. The pen is mightier than the sword. Pen here refers to written words and sword means military force. Let me give you a hand. Here hand means a help. Next is transfer epithet. Transfer epithet is a figure of speech here we transport epithet. Epithet means quality of something. So here we transfer the quality of person to the non-living thing. So it is transfer from its proper word to another that is very closely associated with it in the sentence. A transfer epithet is a little known but often used figure of speech in which a modifier qualifies a noun other than the person or thing it is actually describing. An example of a transfer epithet is I had a wonderful day. The day is not in itself wonderful. The speaker had a wonderful day. The epithet wonderful, epithet means the quality which is wonderful, actually describe the kind of day the speaker experienced. Some other examples of transfer epithets are sleepless night. Nights are not sleepless, but the person is sleepless. So human quality which is sleepless is passed on, it is transferred from human being to the non-living thing. In 11th standard we had done this figure of speech. One more time we are revising. Next is exclamation. In this figure the exclamatory form is used to draw greater attention to the point than a mere bald or plain statement it could be do. How sweet the moonlight on upon this bank. So students, simply you can identify the exclamation because here you are going to get the exclamation mark, right? Next is climax. Climax is the arrangement of a series of ideas in the order of increasing importance. Here we are in climax and anticlimax we are going to get an ascending and descending order. Okay, so in climax we are going to get the things in a order of increasing its importance. Okay, In anticlimax, opposite things, that in anticlimax is the opposite of climax, where a sudden descent from the higher to lower importance we are going to get. It is chiefly used for the purpose of satire or the ridicule. So an anticlimax is similar to a climax in that it occurs at the highest of tension in a narrative. However, a climax is a turning point which begins to solve the main conflict in a satisfying way. So whereas in an anticlimax is a turning point that is unsatisfying. There are three things that will endure: faith, hope and love. But the greatest of this is love. So here we are going to get the ascending order, the importance of faith, hope, love. The importance of love is more than these two. In anticlimax, descending order will get: he lost his family, his car and his cell phone. Family is more important, then car, then cell phone. Okay, so here we are going to get descending order. In anticlimax we get descending order: first, second, third. Family is more important, then car, then cell phone. In climax we get ascending order: first, second, third, fourth, faith, then hope, then love is more important here. Next is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the formation of the word from a sound associated with what is named. In onomatopoeia you get different types of sounds. In onomatopoeia can use real words, made up words or just letter used to represent raw sounds like birds, crackle, pop, snap, chopping, sizzling and so on. So this is easy and simple to identify because we get different types of sound in onomatopoeia: throbbing, mourning, meow, birds, bells. Okay. Next, which is very simple figures of speech, is alliteration. In this figure of speech you get the same sound at the beginning of the words or at the ends of the words. Sarah, 7 siblings like to sing. S, 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 S. So one same letter you get in alliteration. Repetition is where we get similar words. In alliteration only we get letter. In repetition we get one word again and again. Because I do not hope to turn again, because I do not hope, because I do not hope to turn, because I do. These repeated words we have got. So rhymes like twinkle twinkle little star, ringa ringa roses, all these are the types of alliteration as well as repetition. Always repetition is the type of alliteration, but alliteration is not always the type of repetition. Okay. So student, today we have learned different types of figures of speeches. Now what you have to do, in the last year books already you have notes of figures of speeches, so you have to copy that notes in new book. If you don't have, so this video also you can use and you can write the figure of speeches definition as well as the examples of it. And your homework is that you have to find out the figures of speeches from the poem which you have learned till now in 12th standard. Okay, so you have to write, you have to find out all the figure of speeches from your poem and you have to give the explanation for that figures of speeches. If you have any query, any doubt, so in the live session, in revision section, you can ask your doubt. Thank you and have a nice day.